Scotland bet its entire economy on a single colony and lost everything in 5 years. In 1695, Scotland was broke, not struggling, broke. The nation had spent decades fighting wars, rebuilding after famine, and watching its wealthier neighbor England rake in profits from colonial trade. England had the Caribbean. England had the East Indies. Scotland had fishing. So when a merchant named William Paterson walked into Edinburgh's Parliament with a plan to build a trading empire in Central America, the entire country was listening. The pitch was simple. A new company, the Company of Scotland trading to Africa and the Indies, would establish a colony called Darien on the Isthmus of Panama. Ships from Scotland would dock there, trade goods from Asia and Africa, and bypass the middlemen entirely. No more paying English tariffs, no more waiting for second-hand markets, direct profits, immense transformative profits. Paterson had credentials. He'd helped found the Bank of England. He understood finance, networks, logistics. When he promised Scotland could rival England's wealth within a generation, people believed him. And here's the part that explains the scale of the disaster. Scotland didn't just nod, the entire nation invested. Exhibit 1: the money. Scots contributed around £3 million, roughly half of all currency in circulation in Scotland at the time. Not a venture fund, not a government grant, household savings, widows' inheritances, merchants' operating capital, entire family fortunes. Everyone from nobility to shopkeepers poured money into this one bet. Exhibit 2: the ships. Between 1698 and 1700, 5 vessels left Scottish ports carrying 500 colonists, supplies, and trade goods. The first expedition landed in Darien expecting paradise. They found swamps, tropical disease, no fresh water, and 0 indigenous trade networks willing to cooperate. The settlement was positioned badly, too far from existing trade routes, too close to Spanish colonial territory. Exhibit 3: the Spanish response. Spain owned Central America. They didn't appreciate Scottish colonists poaching on their territory. Spanish forces surrounded the settlement, cut off supply lines, and forced the colonists to surrender. Of the 500 settlers who arrived, over 2,000 died from disease, starvation, or combat in less than 3 years. But here's where it gets worse. Scotland sent a second expedition in 1699, unaware the first had failed. Then a third wave. Ships crossed the Atlantic carrying more settlers, more supplies, more money, all destined for a colony that was already dead. News traveled slow. By the time Scotland realized the disaster, the capital was gone, the ships were gone, the people were gone. Exhibit 4: the aftermath. By 1701, the Company of Scotland was dissolved, the colony abandoned. The money, that £3 million, was simply gone. No returns, no salvage, no recovery. Scots who'd invested their life savings had nothing. Creditors went unpaid. Families that had been comfortable fell into poverty. One historian described it as the single largest financial catastrophe per capita in European history. Why did everyone invest so heavily? Because Paterson's plan was plausible. Trade routes existed. Colonial ventures did generate wealth, just not for Scotland. He had a track record, the math looked sound on paper, and psychologically Scotland was desperate. A nation that felt left behind will believe almost anything that promises to level the playing field. The Darien Scheme reveals something crucial about financial disasters. They're not always about greed or stupidity, they're about scarcity. When a population feels economically trapped, when legitimate paths to prosperity seem closed off, the risk tolerance skyrockets. People bet everything because staying put feels like a slower death. The disaster had one unexpected consequence. It forced Scotland to recognize it couldn't compete alone. In 1707, just 6 years after Darien collapsed, Scotland and England unified into a single kingdom. Scotland gained access to English colonial networks. The pain of the scheme actually accelerated the very political union that eventually gave Scots access to genuine wealth-building opportunities. So here's the complete picture. Scotland didn't lose its wealth because the people were foolish. They lost it because they were desperate, because the plan was credible enough, and because no one had mechanisms to regulate or verify claims about colonial ventures. There were no financial disclosures, no independent audits, no circuit breaker if the colony failed, just hope and capital. The Darien Scheme sits at the hinge between medieval finance and modern markets. It happened at a moment when investing in distant ventures was new, when information traveled in months, not seconds, and when a nation could stake everything on a single bet. It's why we have stock regulations now. It's why we have disclosure laws. It's why we have circuit breakers that halt trading. Every financial bubble, from Tulip Mania to the dot-com collapse to 2008, follows this same architecture. Scarcity or fear, a credible-sounding solution, concentrated capital, and a moment when reality arrives faster than information. The Darien Scheme is just the clearest, most tragic version of the pattern, because Scotland wasn't greedy. They were trying to survive. The cost was staggering. Scotland's economy didn't fully recover for decades, families never recovered their losses, but the lesson embedded in that wreckage is still worth studying. Desperation plus plausibility plus concentrated capital equals catastrophe. It's happened before. Without understanding the pattern, it will happen again. That's the full anatomy of the Darien Scheme, not a story of foolishness, but a mirror held up to the human need for economic escape and the dangers of betting everything on a single vision. Scotland's disaster became a blueprint for how financial systems should be regulated, monitored, and protected, so that's why we have the financial safeguards we do today. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research. Subscribe to see how other bubbles shaped our world. There's a new financial disaster story every week that explains where today's rules came from. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research.